Welcome to the Perry's Prayer Warriors Bible Study. This week, Jerry wraps up Ezekiel with chapter 47 and 48, with a look at the river of life and the division of the Holy Lands. We are glad you are here. Please like and subscribe. Take it away, Jerry.
So we're finishing up on Ezekiel, and I'll end a little bit with that. But remember that what's going on here. First, we're going to be talking about the river of life and the division of land. But remember that the first assignment of the promised land was made after the conquest of Canaan with Joshua. Eleazar, the high priest, and the heads of the 12 tribes cast lots before the Lord determined the boundaries, and that was in Numbers and in Joshua. It gives that information. And then during the reign of Solomon, he divided the land into 12 royal districts, that required each district to provide food for the king and his household for 1 month. So each of them got a month, But there was no actual boundary lines given. Unfortunately, it wasn't a very popular plan among the people. Somebody read 47, 1 and 2.
Then he brought me back to the door of the temple, and there was water flowing from under the threshold of the temple toward the east, for the front of the temple faced east. The water was flowing from under the right side of the temple, south of the altar. He brought me out by way of the north gate, and led me around on the outside to the outer gateway that faces east, and there was water running out on the right side.
Okay, so he, first of all, or the man, is presumably the radiant man that was mentioned in Ezekiel 40, verse 3. The river's not coming. This is a river that's quite important. It's not coming out of a king's palace, a government building, a marketplace, from a business, or athletic area. It's coming from God's house. Now we're going to have this slide up a number of different times because that's what we're talking about through this day. But if you'll notice, the river comes out of right there at the middle of the tip from the temple. And it's going to wander. We're going to talk about how it gets to all those different places right now in a few minutes. This is happening during the millennial time. Remember that verses chapters 40 through 48 of Ezekiel is talking about the millennium, not the end, not the eternal, but the millennial reign, not the tribulation, but the millennial reign, the 1,000 years. Okay, so somebody read Isaiah 2, first 2 verses.
The word that Isaiah the son of Amoz saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem. Now it shall come to pass in the latter days, that the mountain of the Lord's house shall be established on the top of the mountains, and shall be exalted above the hills, and all nations shall flow to it.
This plot of land, that's going to occur between the end of the tribulation and the beginning of the millennium. There's a 75-day period in between there that we've talked about before. But during that time frame, there's going to be a mountain that's going to go, and the whole landscape's going to go differently because this mountain's going to have a plateau on top of it that is 50 miles by 50 miles large. That's where this is going to sit. We're going to talk about the city that's there, Israel, Mount Zion, the whole of the world that comes to the ruling part of the world during the millennium is going to sit on top of this mountain. So it's going to be the highest mountain in the world. Everybody will be able to see it. You can look down. Everybody has to go to it. So that's the mountain we're talking about, and this is what's on top of that mountain. And like I said, it's 50 miles. You can see it's 50 miles across, 50 miles down. The neat thing about it also says is the water that's coming out of here in verse 2 was trickling out. This is a river that's starting drip by drip. We're going to find out why that's so important here in a few minutes, but we're going to be this thing is just barely starting out, and it's kind of like seeping or oozing out from underneath the temple. This river is mentioned in Joel, and it's also as flowing from the house of the Lord. And in Zechariah, as the living water shall flow from Jerusalem. This is the living water, not to be confused. We'll find out later on with the river in the eternal time. One of the commentaries, and I'll read this so I might get it wrong, but mentioned that this a similar river relevant to the eternal. During the eternal time, there's going to be a river. Don't confuse these two rivers. God is the source of both rivers, but Ezekiel saw that the river issuing from the temple, okay, this is Ezekiel's version. John saw a river coming from the throne of the Lamb of God. Okay, so there's a difference there. Somebody read verses 3-6.
And when the man went out to the east with the line in his hand, he measured 1,000 cubits, and he brought me through the waters. The water came up to my ankles. Again he measured 1,000 and brought me through the waters. The water came up to my knees. Again he measured 1,000 and brought me through. The water came up to my waist. Again he measured 1,000, and it was a river that I could not cross, for the water was too deep, water in which one must swim, a river that could not be crossed. He said to me, Son of man, have you seen this? Then he brought me and returned me to the bank of the river.
Okay, so again, the measurements, don't let that confuse you. What he's saying is, here's a river that is a trickle, a drop by drop. And as you get farther down the river, it gets mightier and deeper until you really can't even cross it. You got to swim, okay? It's not like a normal river. Normal river starts out big and it gets smaller and smaller. This river is starting out as a trickle and getting bigger and bigger and bigger, okay? So it goes from his ankles to his knees to his, what's really happening is that he's trying to simply say, they're telling Ezekiel, look, you can't just think about this. It was something you had to enter into. We'll get to the theological parts of it later on, but you're not just, oh, wow, that's a nice river. It's thinking about the farther you get into it. At first, he's only ankle deep. That's all he can handle. As he gets farther and farther into it, he gets deeper and deeper. Kind of like as you learn more and more, and as you study more and more, and as you know more and more, as you become better and better friends with Jesus, as you understand more, you get deeper and deeper into who he is. Okay. If you started out at the first, you're just drowned. You've got to work your way up to it. But it's a miraculous river, because starting from nothing to getting bigger and bigger. And then it comes down to the last of it, says, Son of man, have you seen this? Really what the guide is telling him is it demands attention. He's inviting Ezekiel to move from a mere observation to a spiritual comprehension. Did you see what I just showed you? Pay attention, please. That's what he's telling Ezekiel. And Ezekiel's going, oh, okay. And then it questions the question highlights the importance of eyewitness testimony. Ezekiel must later proclaim that what he saw, he truly saw. Think about that. People don't understand. And this may be a Keelonism, I don't know. But from what I've studied, the whole of the Bible is eyewitness. And you say, well, that's cool, but what about Genesis 1 through Genesis 2-4? It's talking about the first 6-7 days of creation. Who saw that?
God. Jesus.
Okay. So where did he write that down?
He told it to Moses.
Or wrote it down on the tablets?
Yeah.
I mean, what people think that a lot of things are just made up stories. They're not. Everything that's in here is eyewitnessed and recorded. Okay. And even my thinking, even when Moses got it, he just helped edit the stuff that he had, the tablets, the chapter 1 through 2 from God, because the second from 2-4 on the 3 is Adam's rendition of what God told him. Okay. So people say, oh, he said it twice. He's saying, I did it here, I did it here. No. God said, I did it for us. And then Adam says, well, look, here's how I understand what God told me. And so he writes it down. Okay. So everything is eyewitness. And Ezekiel knows that. So he has the guy guiding him says, pay attention. You're going to have to write this down. This is going to have to be accurate. It's just like when I talk to my younger kids, kindergarten, first grade, I try never to use the word story. Story implicates it could be written, could be conjured up. It's an account. There are accounts. Accounts are recorded events, and that's what I try to get them to understand. I don't know if it works, but I try to do that because people try to minimize the Bible. Sadly, but they do. Okay, somebody read verses 7 through 12.
When I returned, there, along the bank of the river, were very many trees on one side and the other. Then he said to me, "This water flows toward the eastern region, goes down into the valley, and enters the sea. When it reaches the sea, its waters are healed. And it shall be that every living thing that moves, wherever the rivers go, will live. There will be a very great multitude of fish, because these waters go there, for they will be healed, and everything will live wherever the river goes. It shall be that fishermen will stand by it from En-Gedi to En-Eglaim. They will be places for spreading their nets. Their fish will be of the same kinds as the fish of the great sea, exceedingly many. But its swamps and marshes will not be healed. They will be given over to salt. Along the bank of the river, on this side and that, will grow all kinds of trees used for food. Their leaves will not wither, and their fruit will not fail. They will bear fruit every month, because their water flows from the sanctuary. Their fruit will be for food, and their leaves for medicine."
So if you look at this, that water that's coming out, and we'll get back to that picture again, how it comes through there, through the Levites deal down to the city, because it says that this river is coming from Jerusalem. Well, that's Jerusalem, the little city at the bottom of this, the drawing I had up there before. We'll get back to that. But then it says it will go down into Arabah. It turns out that Arabah is the deepest rift of all the rift is where the continents are divided and separated and all that kind of stuff. And there's about, I don't know how many rifts I saw in the Google, but there's a lot of rifts, but this is the deepest one. And it's because it is at the shores of the Dead Sea is the lowest place on earth. The lowest land is the shores of the Dead Sea. And there's about 1,300 feet below sea level, I think is what they've said. So it's flowing there. So if you look at the drawing, it looks on the left one over here. You can see what it is. It's coming out of the temple up there, and it's coming down through the Levites into the city, and then it's going out. One to the Mediterranean, and the other is over to this Arabah, which is at the Dead Sea. If you'll look at the second drawing over here, that valley rift is from Aqaba, all the way up through Israel. Okay, that's where that gap, where the nations were split during the flood or right after the flood. So the saltiest sea, the lowest sea, is now to become fresh water, and you know that because there's going to be fish there, and there's trees all along the side of this thing, and the fish are going to be numerous and going to be all kinds, just like in the Great Sea, which is they call it the Great Sea, the Mediterranean Sea, and but around the bottom of that will be the marshes. And around the marshes is going to be salt. So what's all that about? Have a clue? There is so many minerals in the Dead Sea that the Ezekiel 38-39 war may be over those minerals. There's oil on the sides of it, and there's minerals. There's, I don't know how many phosphorus, there's like 6 or 7 minerals that are needed in everything we do are there. And God's going to preserve those minerals in the marshes. So he gets to see where you can fish at it and do all kinds of stuff, but the side he's going to leave salty. It's miraculous. I mean, you can't just do that. You can't have those boundaries like that, but he can. You know, he can do whatever he wants to, and that's what he's going to do. Somebody read John 7:37-38.
On the last day, that great day of the feast, Jesus stood and cried out, saying, "If anyone thirsts, let him come to me and drink. He who believes in me, as the scripture has said, out of his heart will flow rivers of living water."
I think in terms of, he's talking about the living waters now. We hear that all the time. Jesus, living waters. What is Satan trying to do? He wants to be God. He wants to do everything God does, especially Jesus. Okay. Jesus is the living water. He wants to be the living water. How does he do that? The confusion of evolution. Think about it. He is trying to get you to think of the primordial soup. He says life started in this water, this living water. Okay? But it's him, it's not of God. He's trying to divert our attention away from God. When people say, oh, yeah, evolution probably happened in this way and God directed it. No, it's Satan trying to confuse us so that when we get to chapter 1 of Genesis, we go, that book's no good. Doesn't talk about evolution. We all know evolution is true. Fact, proven, not. Yeah. But that's what he's doing. That's my understanding of what Satan is trying to do, is confuse you by trying to get you out of this book. He doesn't want you to read this book. He wants you to not read it. And the way he does it is make you think, well, that's the stupidest thing I ever heard. I mean, read the first chapter. The order of creation is totally different than the evolution's order of things. Which one are you going to believe in chapter 1 of this book, God or man? God who never makes mistakes, and man who makes a mistake every time he opens his mouth. It's your choice. I mean, that's really the choice you have right away. Then like the thing, and then it goes down through there, and the trees are going to be of all seasons. So they're not going to have a seasonal deal. It's going to be all the time. In other words, the trees are going to be in bloom and everything else. So they'll have a year-round crop. Okay, and the fruit will be for food, and the leaves for healing. So I guess the stuff on, he's going to take care of us. He provides. We need food, even during the millennium, even during that time, and even during when we're in heaven, we need food. You got to have food. Now, when we get to heaven, we won't need to be healed because there's no problem with that. But in the millennium, yeah, it's going to be a problem.
And you need salt for your food.
Very good point. You need salt for the food. My doctor would disagree with you, but that's okay. Okay, someone read 13 through 14.
Thus says the Lord God, these are the borders by which you shall divide the land as an inheritance among the 12 tribes of Israel. Joseph shall have 2 portions. You shall inherit it equally with one another, for I raised my hand in an oath to give it to your fathers, and this land shall fall to you as your inheritance.
Okay, so the promised inheritance, Joseph had been promised that his 2 sons would receive an inheritance, and so they are. He doesn't get one, and they list the people in there. Joseph isn't listed, but his 2 sons are listed. Okay, then in equal parts. One, and but you say, well, what if we add 2, take away 1, add 2, then that's 13, and there's only 12 of everything, right? Well, the Levites don't get land. Okay, and we'll see something about that in a few minutes. But he goes through here and he's talking about all the ones, and he's got Asher, and he's and when he gives this information about the poor, it's an equal portion, but it doesn't say how much it is. He doesn't give the volume of it, or the acreage of it, or anything like that. He just says it's equal portion. Okay. So then somebody read 15 through 20.
This shall be the border of the land on the north, from the great sea, by the road to Hethlon, as one goes to Zedad, Hamath, Berotha, Sibraim, which is between the border of Damascus and the border of Hamath, to Hazar Hatticon, which is on the border of Horon. Thus the boundary shall be from the sea to Hazar Enan, the border of Damascus, and as for the north, northward, it is the border of Hamath. This is the north side. On the east side you shall mark out the border from between Horon and Damascus, and between Gilead and the land of Israel, along the Jordan, and along the eastern side of the sea. This is the east side. The south side, toward the south, shall be from Tamar to the waters of Meribah by Kadesh, along the brook to the great sea. This is the south side toward the south. The west side shall be the great sea, from the southern boundary until one comes to a point opposite Hamath. This is the west side.
The borders, it will include nearly all of Lebanon and in a good part of Syria, including Damascus. But what it's saying is that the landmarks he's listing in here may not still exist. Okay. And so it's very hard to figure out where things are going. Okay. All I know is that the north side he tells what the north side is. And if you'll see the left map over here, that's kind of the area. It kind of extends out and goes around, comes down. And if you have good mappings and everything else, you can trace these things out but you got to get a map that has old cities on them. But some of them they don't have them there. But you can kind of see that it kind of bulges out and goes around and comes down here. Now, that's not the land God gave them. That's the land they're going to have in the millennium. Okay. The land God gives them in eternity is going to be in the gray area over here, from the Nile to the Euphrates, some line down there. That's the area that the Israelites going to live in during the eternity. Okay. So if you want to visit, you can visit them there. So somebody read verses 21 to 23.
Thus you shall divide this land among yourselves according to the tribes of Israel. It shall be that you will divide it by lot as an inheritance for yourselves, and for the strangers who dwell among you, and who bear children among you. They shall be to you as native-born among the children of Israel. They shall have an inheritance with you among the tribes of Israel. And it shall be that in whatever tribe the stranger dwells, there you shall give him his inheritance, says the Lord God.
So they're to divide the land up. And by doing this, what he's really saying, this isn't some spiritual representation. This is real land. This is a real piece of earth on the ground, the allotments, once they get into their area, the allotments are going to be by casting lots before the Lord is who gets what land. Okay. And then it goes in about the aliens among you amidst they're going to get some of the same land. What's all that about? God promised the land. God promised the millennium. We've already talked about that. But the land is going to be given, and there's going to be people living in Israel area right before this all happens. And eventually, I guess, since they're in the millennium now, they have accepted the Lord, but they're not necessarily a Jew. Jews now are Christians also. So it gets real confusing to me because it talks about one of the commentators said something I'm not sure I totally understand, but he was saying based on these aliens, if you will, if they choose to accept the standards and the religion, the way of life of Israel, in other words, proselytes, then they're entitled to have the same treatment. I think that this era will be Jewish, will be Christian. They're Christians, Jews, okay, but they're still, and it's that same thing I've always said, his people, his family. That differential, that keeps it straight in my mind. Whether that's true or not, I don't really know, but I feel like from what I've read that's true, that they're going to still do all the Jewish, not all, only 4 of the Jewish festivals, and they're going to be doing things that shows them that God's promises to the Jewish people are true. Okay. We know they're true, so we don't have to be shown that, but they have to be shown that. It takes 1,000 years because we're slow people. But anyway, that's what I think he's saying. There's the ones that are there that are accepting you, let them live like you, let them live in your territory and give them an inheritance, give them part of this land during this 1,000 years, and don't just kick them out. I think that's what he's saying there. Somebody read 48, 1 through 8.
Now these are the names of the tribes. From the northern border along the road to Hethlon at the entrance of Hamath, to Hazar Enan, the border of Damascus northward. In the direction of Hamath, there shall be one section for Dan from its east to its west side. By the border of Dan, from the east side to the west, one section for Asher. By the border of Asher, from the east side to the west, one section for Naphtali. By the border of Naphtali, from the east side to the west, one section for Manasseh. By the border of Manasseh, from the east side to the west, one section for Ephraim. By the border of Ephraim, from the east side to the west, one section for Reuben. By the border of Reuben, from the east side to the west, one section for Judah. By the border of Judah, from the east side to the west, shall be the district which you shall set apart. 25,000 cubits in width, and in length the same as one of the other portions, from the east side to the west, with the sanctuary in the center.
Dan, it says, starts with Dan, one portion. The curiosity is, people, the commentators, why did he mention Dan first? Because in the listing of the 144,000, Dan isn't listed. Okay. The common thinking is that Dan was the first group of the Israelites that accepted idols. And so they were kind of punished more. And but as a result, so God is now saying, okay, I've given you enough punishment. You're going to be listed first. We don't think in terms of names meaning things, and we don't think in terms of the order that you present them. Judah and Benjamin, these two are the tribes that are closest to the sacred area.
Yeah.
Okay, why? During that time of David, they were the only, and afterwards, they were the only remained faithful to the Davidic dynasty. Okay, remember Judah and Benjamin stayed here. All the rest of the tribes, the other 10 tribes that are the lost tribes, are up north. Okay, that doesn't separate them out by the 10 tribes on here, but that's why they did it, because David and Benjamin stayed true to God's word and everything else. The ones up here kind of went, and then they were the first ones with all the idols. They were the first ones captured by Nebuchadnezzar, rather than so they let out in the rebellion, I guess is what you'd say. And again, you can see, if you look at it real close, it's hard to see in the unless you got close. That square right over there, where it shows it over there, they show it as a mountain all around. So the whole area, remember, the world gets changed.
Yeah.
Okay, physically changed between the tribulation and the millennium during that 75-day period. Something all happens, and all, well, the first thing that happens is the mountain at Mount Olive splits when Jesus comes back, and so there's a lot of reconfiguration of things. God's getting it back to being close to the Garden of Eden. Not exactly. That doesn't happen until the end times, when we're going into eternity. Okay, so I'm going to read 9 through 12.
The district that you shall set apart for the Lord shall be 25,000 cubits in length and 10,000 in width. To these, to the priests, the holy district shall belong. On the north 25,000 cubits in length, on the west 10,000 in width, on the east 10,000 in width, and on the south 25,000 in length. The sanctuary of the Lord shall be in the center. It shall be for the priests of the sons of Zadok, who are sanctified, who have kept my charge, who did not go astray when the children of Israel went astray, as the Levites went astray. And this district of land that is set apart shall be to them a thing most holy by the border of the Levites.
We're going to have to read all this before we get to the exactness of it. Read 13 through 14.
1 inch opposite the border of the priests, the Levites shall have an area 25,000 cubits in length and 10,000 in width. Its entire length shall be 25,000, and its width 10,000. And they shall not sell or exchange any of it. They may not alienate this best part of the land, for it is holy to the Lord.
The little black square in the top deal up there by the temple right there was what we was talking about as the Lord's place, okay? Now we're talking about the priests are in that next, thing across there, and that's where they will live. And then we're going to talk about, the Levites being in the next section of land right through there. And the numbers you gave, these are in miles and those are in cubits, and I tried my mathematics to match it up, but don't worry about that. Ratio wise, it's a strip, and then a half a strip across here. That's what's important to note on that, all that. And somebody read 15 through 20.
The 5,000 cubits in width that remain, along the edge of the 25,000, shall be for general use by the city, for dwellings and common land, and the city shall be in the center. These shall be its measurements. The north side 4,500 cubits, the south side 4,500, the east side 4,500, and the west side 4,500. The common land of the city shall be, to the north 250 cubits, to the south 250, to the east 250, and to the west 250. The rest of the length, alongside the district of the holy section, shall be 10,000 cubits to the east and 10,000 to the west. It shall be adjacent to the district of the holy section, and its produce shall be food for the workers of the city. The workers of the city, from all the tribes of Israel, shall cultivate it. The entire district shall be 25,000 cubits by 25,000 cubits, foursquare. You shall set apart the holy district with the property of the city.
Okay, so the common use, what we're talking about is on the bottom strip, the not graded area is going to be where the city is. Okay, it's based on the comments from the commentaries. The old city wall originally of Jerusalem was about 4 miles around, and this is about, they say, about 6 miles around. I calculate to be a little bit bigger than that, but whatever. This two gray areas are the pasture lands for growing the food. You gotta have food for these people because they live in the city. Okay. One of the things that was mentioned with the Levites through that area, they're not able to sell that land. It's given to them, but they can't barter with somebody or sell it to somebody else because it's part of God's possession. So this, what the priests have and what the Levites have is going to stay that way. They can't now buy and sell land all over the world because it's during the 1,000 years, but you can't buy and sell that land right there. One of the commentaries said, notice again the great minuteness of detail. This is more than a strange, it's inexplicable. In all the statements can be taken, if you can't understand it if it's all to be taken symbolically, so it must be literal. As far as we're aware, no such abundance of detail occurs anywhere else in Scripture outside the instructions for the construction of the tabernacle and its priestly service. Remember when we went through all that stuff early on? This is, you're going to wrap it with this kind of skin. You're going to do this, you're going to do that. You're going to put this big. You're going to draw the angels this way. All that minute detail was given then, it's given now. Okay. So no, they said back then it was strictly interpreted literally, and so we should do it now literally. Somebody read verses 21 to 22.
The rest shall belong to the prince, on one side and on the other of the holy district and of the city's property, next to the 25,000 cubits of the holy district as far as the eastern border, and westward next to the 25,000 as far as the western border, adjacent to the tribal portions. It shall belong to the prince. It shall be the holy district, and the sanctuary of the temple shall be in the center. Moreover, apart from the possession of the Levites and the possession of the city, which are in the midst of what belongs to the prince, the area between the border of Judah and the border of Benjamin shall belong to the prince.
So you can see out here, there's the area over here, the secretary, and then on the right-hand side over here, that's where the prince is. Now, who's the prince? It's not well known who the prince is. One of the, they said, oh, it's got to be David because he's going to be right underneath Jesus during the millennial reign. But Warren Wiersbe, which I use a lot of his commentaries to do the research on, says it's not going to be David. He said the prince is going to be a married man. He'll have sons. He can inherit land. He'll be, which is located on either side. Nowhere is he identified as a member of the royal family, a priest or a Levite. We're not even told what tribe he belongs to. Apparently, he's a civil ruler, a vice regent under the authority of the Messiah. Yet most of his functions are religious. So some of his jobs, and this is from chapter 44 and 46, is he will offer sacrifices for himself. He'll provide sacrifices for special occasions, including the dedication of the sanctuary, the Sabbath, the Passover, and Tabernacle, the new moon. He will not isolate himself from the people during a feast, but be a part of the crowd. He's just going to mingle out with the crowd. He must see to it that the daily burnt offerings are presented on the altar, and they would be as they were in the temple, tabernacle and temple. Now, so we really don't know who he is, but he's going to be important. So back then, so that's kind of interesting. Okay, read 23 through 29.
As for the rest of the tribes, from the east side to the west, Benjamin shall have one section, by the border of Benjamin, from the east side to the west. Simeon shall have one section, by the border of Simeon, from the east side to the west. Issachar shall have one section, by the border of Issachar, from the east side to the west. Zebulun shall have one section, by the border of Zebulun, from the east side to the west. Gad shall have one section, by the border of Gad, on the south side. Toward the south, the border shall be from Tamar to the waters of Meribah by Kadesh, along the brook to the great sea. This is the land which you shall divide by lot as an inheritance among the tribes of Israel, and these are their portions, says the Lord God.
So he's just telling about what he's doing is saying, I'm naming off the other 5. He gave 7 of the northern area, and not northern tribe, I'm sorry, but northern area, and now the remainder 5 of the southern area. And somebody read 30 to 34.
These are the exits of the city. On the north side, measuring 4,500 cubits, the gates of the city shall be named after the tribes of Israel, the 3 gates northward, 1 gate for Reuben, 1 gate for Judah, and 1 gate for Levi. On the east side, for 1,500 cubits, 3 gates, 1 gate for Joseph, 1 gate for Benjamin, and 1 gate for Dan. On the south side, measuring 4,500 cubits, 3 gates, 1 gate for Simeon, 1 gate for Issachar, and 1 gate for Zebulun. On the west side, for 1,500 cubits with their 3 gates, 1 gate for Gad, 1 gate for Asher, and 1 gate for Naphtali.
So the names are memorial names for each of the 12 tribes. And notice it's not Manasseh and Ephraim now, it's Joseph and Levi, okay, because that's the 12 tribes that they're doing that. It's strikingly unconventional because it turns out that most cities back then had a walled city, 1 entrance for protection. He doesn't need protection during this time frame. There's no protection needed. It's a memorial gate. Anybody that can come in. Okay. And then also the 12 gates beautifully symbolizes at the same time, the visible form of unity and harmony between the nations that have been long divided. Okay. And before I go to the next slide, I forgot to say something early on that I got going through this thing. Jerusalem was the only ancient city that was a great city, not on a river. Think about that. It was not on a river. They used the river. Back then, you had to be on a river in the east for water supply. It also gave you essential means of commerce and defense. A river could help you defend. During the Kingdom Age, because of the river we talked about earlier on, is going to be all this different stuff coming out of there. It's the only time they're going to have a river in Jerusalem. Right now, they don't have one. So then read verse 35.
All the way around shall be 18,000 cubits, and the name of the city from that day shall be, the Lord is there.
Yeah, it really says Jehovah Shammah. That's going to be the name of the city. God's going to rename Jerusalem, his city, to Yahweh Shammah. Okay. And it means the Lord is there. But there are 7 different times that a compound name for God is used in the Old Testament. Jehovah Jireh, Jehovah Rapha, Shalom, Sikkenu, Shammah, Nisa, and Raha. Okay, those are the names of God during the Old Testament that are compound names. So Jehovah Shammah is not a new thing. That's just the way they did it back then.
Now,
yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, once again, why did Ezekiel do this in the end? Why did he present this is the way the temple's going to be at this time to those particular Jews?
Yeah, good point. Remember, when does he tell them this?
It's when they're in captivity.
They're in captivity in Babylon,
right? And
they don't know that the Jerusalem's going to be destroyed, and then they don't know they're going to go back. And he's talking about something way out here. He didn't know when it's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, details. God told him to give details all through this. Remember the first. We're going to talk about some of those things in a minute. Remember the first when he talked about the angels. Okay.
Mhm.
He wasn't talking about what they were doing. He's talking about how they did what they did, how they moved very fast direction, all that, remember all that detail that we went through and everybody's going, "Ugh." It's for a reason, so that people, when they see this, they understand that it's what God said. It's not a happenstance. Okay?
Yes, but what you're saying there, I think, is it's for the people that are coming, maybe not even us, beyond us.
Well, he was telling it for them so they'd be excited. This is going to happen.
Give them hope.
Give them hope.
Right.
They don't know how far, just like we don't really know either.
Oh, you mean this is going to happen tomorrow? Hey, great.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Well, and when they said Jesus is coming back, they thought next week. Okay. God's timing and our timing is different.
Mhm.
Okay. And the thing is you have to have hope. I've said the thing about the rats, put rats in a bill of water. In 2 hours, they all drown.
Mhm.
In an hour, pull one of them out, they'll live 20 hours.
Mhm.
Hope gives you something to live for. This is what he's doing here for
Yeah.
them.
Mhm.
And now he's doing it, for us too. That's why he adds the detail onto it later on. And then when they get there, they're going to go, oh man, it's just like look at, I'm going to march this out and make sure it's the right size. It will be. That's what's going to happen. It's going to be so fantastic to be in that time frame. We'll be there. We'll get to see it. Okay, so here, just kind of as a quick recap, there's so much about Ezekiel that I said, well, I can recap it, but it'll take me 6 weeks. There's so much in it. But think about, he first had his call and commission. That was in chapters 1 and 3.
Mhm.
Then he had the prophecies against Judah and Jerusalem. He did it through symbols, and he did it through sermons, and he did it through visions, and then through causes of what was going to happen if they didn't do it. Then he did the prophecies against the foreign nations. All you guys living around them, the Edoms, all these other guys. I'm going to tell you too what's happening. Can you just imagine a world leader that would actually read this stuff and go, "Whoa, wait a second. This isn't in my plan, but it's in God's plan." And then the prophecies of Israel's restoration was in 33 through 9, getting ready for the last part, when he talks about the prophecies concerning Israel in the millennium kingdom. So the last 8 chapters of this book is probably some of the best descriptions of the millennial period, of the millennial reign. Now, they're thinking, sitting on the banks of the Shavas River, whatever it was, in Babylon, wow, next week all this is going to happen. But it got them to do what needs done. Okay. Hopefully it gets up to do what needs to be done. This last week with my kindergarten to 4th grade at BSF, I asked them, I said, because one little girl says, what was our purpose? And I says, we're here to do God's will, to tell people about that. And I said, what was the last 2 words that Jesus said before he left the earth? What was the last 2 words he used? Oh, he had all kinds of holy answers. One little girl got it right. You know? Go tell.
Mhm.
Don't sit on your butt. That's my job. Don't sit on your rear end. Go tell. That's all. He's giving commands all through there. But the last thing he said was, excuse me, go tell. And just tell about him.
Mhm.
Okay. Because if you don't know him, you can't accept him.
Mhm.
That's why I try to get them also to say, look, when you talk with your friends, don't talk about God, talk about Jesus.
Mhm.
Other people talk about God. It's not the same God. How do you differentiate our God from their God? By using the name Jesus. That's the difference. There's a lot of other things that differentiate, but that's the one word that will give you the differentiation between our religion and what all the rest of the world's doing. Because they all have some kind of God. Even the atheists have a God, and it's the God of nothingness. So they even have that. I was going to say, in the book of Ezekiel, teaches a lot of things.
Mhm.
It teaches us we must honor God's name and magnify his glory. That's one of the main things he has. The glory of God departed from Israel because they defiled the temple. It's coming back in the millennium because that's where God's going to live, right? They shall know that I am Lord is found, that statement is found 60 times in the book of Ezekiel. he's doing this not just
Mhm.
for the Jews, but for the rest of the world. If the rest of the world would read this, they'd realize, you know, I'm Lord. Okay, that's what he's trying to tell them. So while God's glory doesn't dwell in our church buildings today, God can be glorified or disgraced by what we do in those buildings that we have dedicated to him. What we do matters. So as people, we must be reverent and honor his name. The first vision God gave Ezekiel was the glorious throne moving quickly from here to there so that the angelic angels could accomplish his mission and purpose in the world. Today, the Church of Jesus is left in this world not just to pray, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven, but to accomplish that will in the power of the Holy Spirit. God's still on the throne, and Jesus Christ has all authority in heaven and earth. This was kind of cool. This is 1992 deal. The bottom line is how many Christians are in the world. And at that time, it was 1,758 million. Yeah, 1 billion rather. So today, and then there was only 17 million Jews. That's the top line. Okay.
Mhm.
And now there's 8 billion people, so you can ramp it up.
Mhm.
But the Jewish religion is the lowest one of everything, okay? But the world centers on that
Mhm.
because that's God's people. Okay. People just think that the Jews are rich, bad people, and they're not. They are God's people. Don't ever forget that. They're God's people. Questions, and he'll handle all questions next week.
Thank you, Jerry.
Oh.